Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about sentence fragments. A sentence fragment is an incomplete sentence. Something is missing, usually either the main verb or the subject of the sentence. So let's take a look at an example of a sentence where the subject is missing. Is cold today. We have a verb, but we don't have a subject to go with it. So we fix the problem by adding the subject. It is cold today. Now here's an example of a sentence where the verb is missing. My friend, very nice. I have the subject, my friend, and I can fix the problem by inserting a verb is to give us a complete sentence. My friend is very nice. Now these two examples are easy to look at because they're very short sentences. Let's look at some examples of longer sentences that are still sentence fragments. For example, the increase in tuition at Dutchess Community College. That's a pretty long sentence. But if you look closely, it's missing a main verb. I have a subject here, the increase in tuition at Dutchess Community College. But there's no verb. So I have to fix this sentence by adding a verb. I can say, for example, the increase in tuition at Dutchess Community College was small. Now I have a complete sentence. I added my verb was, and I completed the idea with the word small. Let's look at an even longer example. My sister, who always gets excellent grades and will probably go to Harvard when she graduates from high school. This is still a sentence fragment. Why is it a sentence fragment? Well, if you look here, you see the word who. Who begins an adjective clause that describes my sister, and all this information is part of that adjective clause. All of this is just description. There's no main verb yet. I have to add a main verb to this sentence. My sister, who always gets excellent grades and will probably go to Harvard when she graduates from high school, is my best friend. Now I have a complete sentence. There's also another way that I could change this sentence to make it a complete sentence instead of a sentence fragment. Remember how we said who begins a clause that describes my sister? Well, if I don't have anything else to say, if I really just want to say that my sister gets excellent grades and will probably go to Harvard when she graduates, then I just write in the form of a sentence. I take away who so that I don't have an adjective clause. Now I have a subject, my sister. I have a main verb, gets excellent grades. And now I have a second main verb, go, right? Will probably go to Harvard. So this is a simple sentence with one subject and two main verbs, and that's perfectly okay. Another example of a sentence fragment is a sentence fragment that begins with a subordinator. This is probably one of the most common mistakes that students make with subordinators. Putting a subordinator at the front of a clause with a subject and a verb, and then ending that clause with a period and not connecting it to anything else. Remember, subordinators like because, when, while, before, all of these words need to have not only their own subject and verb to go with the subordinator, but a separate clause, an independent clause with its own subject and verb. That's what makes the sentence complete. So if I have two sentences here, I was late today, period, because my car broke down, period. This part, because my car broke down, actually is not a sentence. It's a fragment. I can fix it by connecting it to the independent clause. Is it okay if I put a comma here? If you said no, you're correct. No comma. Now I can reverse the order of the clauses. I could start with a dependent clause. And then finish with an independent clause. And if I do that, then I put a comma here. Is it okay to replace that comma with a period? Because my car broke down, period. I was late today, period. Is that okay? If you said no, you're correct again. Remember, because my car broke down is a fragment. And it's a fragment because it starts with a subordinator, but then doesn't continue to connect with an independent clause. We have to connect it with an independent clause. So these are the two ways that you can write your sentences that include subordinators, your complex sentences. You can start with your independent clause and follow it with your dependent clause and end with a period. Or you can start with your dependent clause, put in a comma, then your independent clause, and end with a period. But you cannot just have a dependent clause alone. You can find more information about sentence fragments in our textbook, Longman Academic Writing Series, Book 4, starting on page 194. They have explanations, examples, and information that you can use to help you identify and fix these problems. I strongly suggest that you check the textbook, do the exercises, check your answers using our answer key, which is available online, and as always, come to see me with any questions. The final thing that I want to mention is the idea of choppy sentences. And you can read about choppy sentences in your book on page 196 and 197. Choppy sentences are not grammatical errors, they are style errors. You get choppy sentences when you have a series of short sentences, one after the other after the other. So if you use too many simple sentences in a row, your writing sounds choppy. Choppy sentences are easy to correct. Combine some short, simple sentences into either compound or complex sentences that are longer, and your writing will have a better flow to it. Again, check out your textbook for some ways to combine sentences and create this sort of flow so that you don't have a choppy sound to your writing. And come see me, as always, with any questions or if you need any help.